What's up, fight fans? This is episode 7 of Anchored Aggression. I am one of your hosts, Brett Cagle, joined by Anthony Ballister. We've got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to jump right into some news that is very fortunate and good news coming out of the mixed martial arts world. Mark Coleman actually saved his family last weekend. A house fire in his local Ohio home. He lived with his parents. His dog actually woke him up. He saw that there was smoke and an active fire in his house, went and saved his parents, brought him out to the front yard, went back in to go get the dog, and he never returned outside. The fire department had to come rescue Mark as he was suffering from smoke inhalation, and he was rushed to the emergency room where he's actually made a full recovery already. Did you hear about this news, Anthony?
Yeah. It was definitely very sad, but definitely very touching as well. It definitely had a good outcome. It's a story of courage and sacrifice. Mark Coleman putting his life on the line to save his loved ones. I was very, very happy and maybe a little teary-eyed when I see him wake up in the hospital bed, greeting his loved ones once again. It goes to show you that not only is he an all-time, UFC fighter, he's also an even better human being. And for him to put his life on the line to save his loved ones, what's better than that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the word that you said that stuck out to me was courageous. And certainly he did put his life on the line and, rescued his family, which was, amazing in that situation. Some people wouldn't know what to do and would panic, but Mark went right into protection mode and went in there and saved his family. So, he's one of the toughest human beings on the planet, if not the toughest. And as you said, he's a great fighter and a great human being. So, unfortunately his dog passed away, but we're happy Mark's made a full recovery himself.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely glad that he's doing great. And, like I said, it's very, very sad story, unfortunately, with his, dog passing. But at least he was able to save his family and save himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've actually got a decent amount of fights this week. We've got some Bellator, a card from them in Belfast, Ireland. And then we've also got Amanda Ribas versus Rose Namajunas for a fight night card with the UFC. Let's talk a little Bellator first. I think that this card might actually be the better card of the weekend when you look at the top 3 fights. We have 2 title fights, a light heavyweight title fight between Corey Anderson and Carl Moore. The light heavyweight title in Bellator was vacated when Vadim Nemkov moved up in weight to heavyweight. We just saw him make a successful heavyweight debut against Bruno Capoloza. He defeated Corey Anderson recently in Chicago. I was at that card as a fan, and Corey looked good for points in times, but then his main problem is been what it has been his whole career. He gets in lulls on the feet against more athletic guys, and when his takedown gets defended, he doesn't really have much to offer there. And he's fighting a guy in Carl Moore who's gone against great grapplers in his last couple contests. He was able to defeat Carl Albertson in Ireland, who's a good fighter and fought against Nemkov and Rizin, and then he also defeated Alex Polizzi in Chicago. So, Carl Moore's faced these grapplers, and he doesn't really have a problem with them. So I actually like Carl Moore as a plus 295 dog in this matchup. I know Corey's always been close to the title opportunities with the UFC and with Bellator, but I think Carl Moore's a very athletic guy. He's 6'4". He's going to be a little taller and longer than Corey, and Corey's getting up there in age, and he needs to take this fight to the ground. If he gets the fight to the ground and can land some of that ground and pound, I think it'll be a good night for Corey. But Carl Moore going against grapplers recently, I really like his chances here as an underdog.
Yeah. I think of the top 3 fights, I think this one is going to be the closest. I think Carl Moore is definitely more than qualified to go in there and get the win. I'm still going to side with Corey Anderson, given his accomplishments and where he's at. But would I be surprised if Carl Moore wins? No, not at all. I'm going to go with Corey Anderson by submission, if not decision. But like I said, I give, given his skill set and where he's at in his career, Carl Moore has definitely got every chance to win this fight.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be an interesting one. It's wide open right now in the light heavyweight division with Nemkov moving up in weight. And, I really like Carl Moore as an athlete. when you look at him, he's not necessarily the greatest grappler in the world. He doesn't have, jiu-jitsu that's at the world championship level. He's not a world championship kickboxer, but when you put all the skills together, and, he's a big guy that is a plus athlete in terms of explosiveness and that sort of thing, I really like Carl Moore, and I think it's going to be a good fight. In the co-main event, we've got Patricio Pitbull taking on Jeremy Kennedy. Kennedy's been on a little bit of a streak recently. One of his fights with Aaron Pico kind of ended unceremoniously with a shoulder injury. But he's going to get his opportunity here with Patricio Pitbull, who's actually fallen on a rough patch in recent times. What do you make of this matchup, and do you think we could see a new champion?
Yeah, I definitely think we can. Patricio Pitbull is definitely one of the all-time greats. But as you said, given his age, he may be on the decline. His best days may be, behind him. And Kennedy's on this win streak, and, we've seen, in these types of divisions in featherweight, most of the time the young guys, do pull out the win. Now, again, I'm still going to, fair with Patricio Pitbull. I think he's going to get the win. But Jeremy Kennedy, like I said, can go in there and become a new champion and, put his name on the map.
Yeah, and I think that Jeremy Kennedy's got a path to victory in this one with the ground game. We saw Patricio Pitbull in his fight with Sergio Pettis. It looked like he was dropping down in weight. He's now back at featherweight. That was a bantamweight contest, but he looked a lot slower than Sergio in that fight. And I don't know if it was age or a difficult weight cut that was a result of that. But Patricio's not really looked that great recently. He was knocked out in Ryzen by Suzuki. That was the first knockout loss of his career as well. So he needs a win to get back, to his winning ways where he's accustomed to. But I think Jeremy Kennedy's really coming on right now, and this could be a really entertaining fight, striker versus grappler. And I think I might have to ride with Kennedy in this one.
So in the first two fights, you're going with the underdogs?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes that way either. I think we got two good fights ahead of us. The third fight we're going to speak about on the Bellator card is obviously Fabian Edwards going up against Aaron Jeffries. I think of the three fights, this one's probably the most one-sided and the one I'm probably the most confident in. I just don't think Aaron Jeffries is on the level of Fabian Edwards. I know Fabian Edwards is coming off of a loss, but I think he's world-class. I think he's one of the best top 15 at his weight class in the world, even though he's not in UFC. I think he's unbelievable, and I think he's going to win this one pretty decisively. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think Aaron Jeffries is a guy who, is more talented than people give him credit for. If you go back and look at some of the names that Aaron Jeffries lost to, they're all top tier. Sean Brady on the regional scene, and then amongst other guys that are world title contenders. But, I really liked Aaron Jeffries and was impressed with him against Dalton Rasta in his last contest in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Rasta was undefeated in that matchup, came in there 9-0. He stopped the takedown attempts of Rasta and was able to get the better of him on the feet. Completely different matchup this time against Fabian Edwards, who is an extremely athletic striker in his own right, brother of Leon Edwards in the UFC, welterweight champion. I like you said, I think Fabian's one of the most talented fighters in the world at this weight class. I think Aaron's going to have a tough time if he tries to sit there and get into a pure kickboxing match with him. But I also think Aaron Jeffries is very well-rounded, and he might actually try and use his ground game in this one. I'm going to go Fabian Edwards by decision, but this is actually the fight that I think is going to be the closest of these three.
Oh, wow. You think this one's going to be the closest one? I'm surprised you said that because I thought this one would be the most one-sided.
Yeah, if you go and look at the odds at FanDuel right now, this was almost a pick'em. I think that the Corey Anderson fight is either going to be dominant one way or the other. I think that Carl Moore is either going to catch Corey and win by knockout, or Corey's going to win a dominant decision and kind of control him for large portions of the fight. So I don't think that one's going to be really as competitive. The Jeremy Kennedy and Pitbull, kind of a similar situation, striker, grappler, old versus young. Pitbull's going to go in there and get Kennedy out of there by knockout like he wants to do, or Kennedy's going to control the fight on the ground. Here, you don't really know what's going to happen because Jeffrey could play the game on the feet with Fabian Edwards, but like I said, he could also mix in takedowns and try and make this a boring fight. which is what I think his coaches will probably be telling him to do. I don't know how many people want to stand and trade with Fabian Edwards, even though he did lose to Johnny Eblen last time out.
Yeah, like I said, I think all 3 fights are definitely going to be compelling, and I'm very excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, I am too. And then another fight on there, James Gallagher, also from Ireland, will be taking on Leandro Higo in a bantamweight contest. So that's another one on the prelims to look out for there. You want to get into the UFC, though?
Yeah, you can start off. We got Amanda Ribas going up against Rose Namajunas. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, we got the former 115-pound champion, Rose Namajunas, continuing this experiment at 125 pounds. She lost her flyweight debut to Minot Ferro, who will be fighting Erin Blanchfield here in the next couple weeks. And, I thought Rose looked good in that fight. I think Minot Ferro is one of the best prospects that they have in the flyweight division for females right now. And that fight was very close. Some people thought that Rose actually edged that fight based on volume and her sticking on the outside. And I think she's going to try and employ a similar game plan in this matchup. Now, one thing that I like for Rose in this one is the style of opponent. When you go back and look at like the stronger, stockier, aggressive fighters that she's faced in the past, like Jessica Andrade, or Weili Zhang, she's had success against that style. And that's a similar style that Amanda Ribas is going to bring to her this weekend. I think that she's going to be able to dictate things on the feet. I think Ribas loads up for big right hands while Namajunas gets in and out of range with combinations. And I've got Rose by decision in this one. What do you got?
Yeah, I got Rose Namajunas by decision as well. Ribas coming off of a knockout win. Namajunas coming off of a loss. But like you said, she didn't look that bad in the loss. So I'm not going to discredit her for that. She is an all-time great. Obviously, she's trying to fight at 125. But I just don't think, Ribas is at her level. And I think Namajunas wins by decision, and she rebounds from that last loss she just had.
Yeah, I do too. Now, if Ribas wins this fight, it might be the biggest win of her entire career. But if Rose loses, there's a lot of question marks about what would be next for her. Do you think if Rose loses this fight, she might have to go back down to 115?
Yeah, I think, having back-to-back losses, with someone of her caliber and what she's accomplished in the UFC already, I think she would have no choice either to retire or move back down in a weight class, because I don't want to see her lose 3 fights and then no one's going to want to, have her fight again, because you don't want her to, have her diminish her legacy at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. The legacy, as of right now, she holds 2 wins over Weili Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So a lot of people think that she's the greatest strawweight of all time, and now she's at the flyweight division. We'll see how things work out there. But I'm very interested to see how she looks this weekend and how this experiment continues.
Yeah, me too. And a fight that I'm very, very excited about, the co-main event. We got 2 great heavyweights. We got Carl Williams going against Justin Tafa. 2 great heavyweights, I think, just outside the rankings. Probably some of the best fighters just outside the rankings. Both on win streaks. I think both have KO power. I think, Justin Tafa is a better striker. But I think Carl Williams is going to get the win due to his overall skill set. And I think he's got more a versatile game. And I think I got Carl Williams by decision. But how do you think you see this one going?
I got it the same way as you, man. We're seeing eye to eye this week. Justin Tafa is going to come in there, filling in for his brother. His brother filled in for him a few weeks ago, so he does his brother the favor this week, fills in for him. Now, Carl Williams is a guy who also has a ground game at heavyweight. A lot of times we see, these heavyweight fighters and we think this is going to be a slugfest. Someone's going down in one. Carl Williams doesn't actually have that many finishes on his record here. So I like Carl to win by decision. I think that if Tafa wins, it's going to be by knockout. If fight fans, if you like that play more than the Williams play. But I got to tell you, Anthony, I don't think this heavyweight matchup is as good as the one that's starting this card off.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because when we get later into the rundown, I'm going to ask you what was your favorite fight on the prelims, And that's a little bit of a preview of the fight I picked. I don't understand how that was not on the main card. I was pretty shocked to see that as a prelim.
How are these two fights not flipped? I was really surprised.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I think all four of the guys are pretty much same level. They're probably all just outside the rankings. So I really don't see much to distinguish them. Let alone put one on the main card as the co-main event and one as the first fight of the prelim.
Yeah, and when you got a guy in Mick Parkin who's undefeated, and Usman who is an Ultimate Fighter winner who's on a 3-fight win streak, so it never lost in your promotion since joining it after the Ultimate Fighter. But we'll get to that fight later. So we both got Carl Williams by decision in this one, right?
Yep.
All right, and then we're going to move into a middleweight matchup between 7-2 AJ Dobson, who enters this contest as a plus 170 dog, versus Edmund Shabazyan, the karate specialist. Edmund's kind of fallen on tough times recently, needs a win here badly. AJ needs a win bad as well. Who do you like in this one?
I see this pretty similar to the last fight we've seen. I see Edmund as the better striker, but I think Dobson's the better grappler. I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I think Dobson's grappling is going to be too much and it's going to overwhelm him. And I think he controls the fight on the ground. So I got Dobson by decision.
I like that pick. I think that's how he's going to want to. That's going to be his path to victory for sure. I've actually got decision as well. I think that I know fight fans might not want to hear this, but I think we might be in for a lot of decisions on this main card this weekend, which could be entertaining or not entertaining. You never know, but I think we got some fights that are going to go the distance here. And I think Edmund Shabazyan is going to win this fight by decision. Now he doesn't have many decision wins on his record, but when you get to this level in the UFC, you're fighting tough guys. AJ Dobson has never been finished in his career, and I think that if Edmund plays this smart, picks him apart from the outside with leg kicks and his jab, like we've seen him do when he's successful, that he can win this fight by decision. But the thing with Edmund is that sometimes he doesn't have the best fight IQ out there, and he tries to finish fights early and then gasses out, gets taken down, and has real problems on the ground. He's been finished by ground and pound multiple times in his career in the UFC. So that's probably Dobson's path to victory. I've got Shabazyan by decision in this one, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I think either way, I can see either one winning by decision. But like I said, if Edmund's gonna win, it's definitely gonna have to be on the feet, and he's gonna have to keep the fight off the ground, and keep him away with the jabs and his unique striking ability.
Yep. We got Talbot and Saaiman next, right?
Yep.
All right, so we've got a bantamweight matchup between up-and-coming prospects here. Undefeated Peyton Talbot, 25 years old, is going to take on Cameron Saaiman, who's 9-1 from South Africa. I really like Saaiman as a prospect. He went the distance with Chris Rodriguez, who we saw last weekend pick up a win by decision. He got Cameron by decision, but Cameron's fought that higher level of competition than Talbot. Talbot's only had one fight in the UFC. I think this is going to be a really close fight between two guys who are 25 and under. It might be, the future prospects in this division. These guys might go around and face each other again here in a few years. I think this is a very interesting matchup, and I'm going to take Cameron Saaiman in this one.
Yeah, I think this has fight of the night potential. Definitely two great up-and-coming bantamweights. As you said, Talbot is undefeated. Saaiman, one loss to a great fighter, Christian Rodriguez. But I'm going to go with Talbot by submission. I think his ground game just overcomes Saaiman. But I could definitely see this fight being fighted tonight and going either way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's probably the best path for Talbot. We saw that, he has a good ground game in his last fight. And but Cameron Saaiman, to me, is a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. He's going to have to, show some improvements from that fight that he had against Christian Rodriguez, because he was taken down a few times in that matchup. So I definitely think that that's the way Talbot gets it done. But if Saaiman can keep it on the feet, I think that he can, dictate range and land the better strikes standing.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the next fight we got is Billy Quarantillo going against Youseef Zalal. I think Quarantillo is actually a solid fighter. I think every time, unfortunately, he gets on a win streak, right before he gets on like a ranked fighter, he unfortunately loses it and has to start all over. But I think in this fight, I'm going to have him winning. I think he'll beat Youseef. Youseef hasn't won a fight since 2020. So I'm actually going to go with Quarantillo by knockout in this one. How about you? How do you see it?
Yeah, Billy Q is an under the radar fighter. I think that he's really underappreciated. He's 3-2 in his last 5. His only losses are to Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza in his last 5. So, those are 2 good names and 2 respected fighters. Shane Burgos now with the PFL doing things over there, and Edson Barboza still competing well inside the UFC. But I think that Billy Q here is probably going to want to take this fight to the ground. He's got 5 submissions. He's never been submitted in his career. But Zalal has never been finished either. So we've been picking decisions, but, you got 2 tough guys here. I think Billy Q's probably, a little bit better technically. I think his skills are a little bit better. But the guy he's going against is very, very tough and very durable and, can take a beating. So, these are tough fights to predict, but I've got Billy Q in this one.
Yeah, like I said, another fight that could go either way. Like you said, never been finished. But I think Billy Q is going to finish him for the first time and get the KO in probably the second or third round.
Yeah, I like that, especially if he hasn't gotten a win since 2020.
Yeah. And then on our last fight on the main card, we have Fernando Padilla going up against a guy making his UFC debut, and Luis Pajuelo. I think Padilla coming off of a loss, 1-1 in UFC. Luis making his UFC debut at 8-1. I think he's going to win this one again by knockout. How do you see this one going?
You have Padilla in this one?
No, I got the Luis making his UFC debut, getting the knockout win over Padilla.
I gotcha. I actually, I can't get a good read on Padilla. He made his debut against Julian Erosa, guys who is very respected, finished him in the first round by knockout, and then goes and loses to Canadian Kyle Nelson by decision, in a fight where he was controlled on the ground by a guy who's not a world-class grappler. So that was really alarming to me. But the thing that jumps off the page with Padilla is 6'1" at 145 pounds. When you see this guy, he's massive with his length. He's got a tremendous reach. 6'1", like I said, he's one of the tallest fighters in the weight class. He's got a very good jab, good strikes. He's got long arm chokes on the ground, with like you see with some of these Tony Ferguson and lankier guys. They're able to get Darces and Anacondas on the ground with their extremely long arms. Padilla's right up that alley as well with his submissions. I've got Padilla in this one. I think that he gets the job done. I think he's a tough guy to debut against with that length, and that's going to be a problem here for Pajuelo.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough debut coming into your first fight, but I definitely think it's going to be exciting, and I really think the guy's going to come in and get his first UFC win and his UFC debut.
Yeah, that would be very impressive, and you'd make some money if you put a bet on that. It looks like he's the underdog here slightly.
Yeah. I know a lot of people probably aren't giving him a chance, but I think with that 8-1 record, I think he's definitely got a chance to win this fight.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to keep the fight standing. 7 knockouts, never been knocked out. Maybe if Padilla plays a little bit too much with that length, he can get inside on him and land a big shot.
Yeah, 100%. And we still got some other good fights on the card. The fight that I'm probably most excited on in the entire card on the prelims is definitely what we spoke about earlier. Muhammad Usman going up against Mick Parkin. I don't see how this is not on the main card, as I said before. I think this has got fight of the night potential. I think this is probably the second fight I'm most excited on heading into this card. This is definitely going to be a fight of 2 great heavyweights. As we said before, just like the other 2 heavyweights, these are 2 of the best heavyweights who aren't ranked in the entire world. I think Parkin, being the bigger man, being the younger fighter, I think he's the better striker. So I think Parkin's going to win this fight by KO. But if Usman's going to want to win this fight, I think it's going to have to go to distance. I think the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Usman. And if it does go to distance, I'll give Usman the win by decision. But in my prediction, I think Parkin gets the win by KO. How do you see it going?
I think Usman's a very tough individual. I think he's going to be hard to get out of there. We've seen in his fights, he also does have the ability to take the fight to the ground. He was a defensive end at the University of Arizona, so he's a supreme athlete. I know Mick Parkin here is from England. I don't think he's the level of athlete that Muhammad Usman is. Same as you, I think this is one of the most interesting fights on the card, one of the most competitive fights on the card, and one of the fights I'm most looking forward to this entire weekend, Bellator or UFC. I think these are two up-and-coming guys that both have massive amounts of potential. When you go and watch Muhammad Usman's knockout of Zach Płaga, you can tell that he's got one-shot knockout power, and all he's got to do is touch you the right way. So I really like Muhammad Usman, and Mick Parkin is one of these guys who, I'm not too impressed with his body. You see these guys in the heavyweight division like Jared Vandera, Jake Collier, some of these other guys that are, Parker Porter. And Mick Parkin's right up that alley. When you don't take, tremendous pride in your physical shape, I don't know how hard you're training, for one. And when you look at Muhammad Usman, he is taking, the time and effort to put in to his physical conditioning and shape, and he is a supreme athlete. So I like Usman in this one to upset Parkin and his undefeated record. I'll take the Ultimate Fighter winner, Muhammad Usman. I think that he could even knock him out if he catches him clean, but I got him by decision.
Yeah, I can see this fight going a million different ways. That's what makes it so exciting. Definitely, like you said, if you look at the body types, Usman's definitely in better shape. Even though Parkin's the bigger guy by about like 15 pounds, a lot of that extra weight is not extra muscle. It's just extra fat. Now, obviously, that could benefit him, but that's also going to hurt him when it comes to cardio and as the fight goes along. That's why I think the longer the fight goes, the more it's going to favor the more conditioned and the more in-shape athlete in Usman. But this fight could go a million ways, and I'm very, very excited. Is there anything else on the card or any other fights that get you excited that you would like to talk about before we get out of here?
There's a couple on here that, I think are going to be wars. I don't know, who's going to really win necessarily, but Cody Gibson and Kurt Hollabaugh off of The Ultimate Fighter are coming in here, and they're going to be coming back in their return fights. Hollabaugh is going to take on submission specialist Trey Ogden. Hollabaugh has 8 submissions of his own. So I think Hollabaugh can actually get this one done as a betting underdog. I think he's good enough on the ground to stay alive if it goes there, and he'll have an advantage on the feet as long as it stays standing. And then Cody Gibson takes on Miles Johns. I think that's a little bit more of a tougher matchup. Johns is 13-2 and has enjoyed success inside the UFC. Gibson is trying to make a second run for himself in the promotion. But it's going to be hard in this one for him against Miles John.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned Miles Johns. That was another guy I wanted to get in on the podcast. I really like his potential, and I really like his skill set, and I really like to see where he's going and what his future holds in the UFC as well.
Yeah, I think Cody Gibson's a good fight for him to really see where he's at, though. So I'm interested in that one, too.
Yeah, I can't wait to break it down on Sunday for the sports fans, and I can't wait to watch this card.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, fight fans. We'll bring you the results on Sunday or Monday this coming week, and we'll break down the next week of fight cards. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
See ya.